From the muddy trenches of the Great War to the island fortresses of the Pacific, flamethrowers brought terror to the battlefield. These weapons turned soldiers into walking infernos, carrying fire itself into the teeth of the enemy. World War II saw every major power equip its armies with liquid flame, transforming individual combat into something primal and horrifying. Germany entered the war with the Flamethrower 35, a brutal piece of engineering that weighed 35.8 kilograms. This early war design featured a two-tank system pressurized with nitrogen, capable of projecting flame 25 to 30 meters for approximately 10 seconds. Bulky and heavy, it required immense physical strength just to maneuver into position. Soldiers carrying this beast were essentially wearing a target on their backs, marked for enemy fire by the distinctive twin cylinders strapped across their shoulders. Learning from battlefield experience, German engineers refined their design into the Flamethrower 41. This improved single-tank system dropped the weight to just 21.3 kilograms while maintaining a range of 25 to 32 meters. Lighter and far more practical, it became the standard German infantry flamethrower, seeing action from the frozen steppes of Russia to the bocage of Normandy. Its 6 to 8 second burn time meant operators had to make every burst count, advancing under fire to deliver death at close range. The Flamethrower 42 followed with minor modifications, used in limited numbers as the war ground toward its conclusion. American forces stumbled into flame warfare with the problematic M1 flamethrower. Weighing 31.8 kilograms and offering 20 to 25 meters of range, this early war model suffered from frequent malfunctions and unreliability. Early Pacific Marines quickly learned to dread the weight and the mechanical failures that could leave them exposed and defenseless at critical moments. The improved M1A1 flamethrower corrected these issues, maintaining similar specifications at 31.3 kilograms while delivering far better reliability. It became the most common United States portable flamethrower, island hopping across the Pacific from Tarawa to Okinawa. But the Americans saved their true innovation for the M22 flamethrower. Weighing just 31 kilograms and capable of projecting flame 20 to 40 meters, this late-war weapon introduced thickened napalm fuel that clung to everything it touched. Its 7-second duration delivered devastation far beyond its numbers suggested. The weapon that made Japanese bunkers into crematoriums changed the nature of Pacific warfare, turning fortified positions into death traps with a single sustained burst. Britain approached flame warfare with characteristic engineering precision. The Flamethrower Portable No. 1 served as an early war design, but was quickly superseded by something far more effective. The Flamethrower Portable No. 2, nicknamed the Lifebuoy for its distinctive donut-shaped fuel tank, weighed 29 kilograms and achieved 30 to 40 meters of range with a 10-second burn time. Arguably, the most effective man-portable flamethrower of the war, its design was so sound that other nations studied it for post-war development. British flame troops wielded these weapons with deadly efficiency, their superior range allowing them to strike from positions that kept enemy riflemen just out of effective return fire distance. But the major powers were not the only ones equipping their soldiers with liquid fire. While the Western powers refined their designs, the Soviets mass-produced their own flame weapons, the Japanese embraced the weapon's psychological terror, and the Italians brought Mediterranean ingenuity to the firefight. The Soviet Union fielded the ROKS-2, a flamethrower that embodied pragmatic brutality. Weighing just 23 kilograms and capable of projecting flame 25 to 30 meters for 6 to 8 seconds, it was lighter than its German counterpart and far simpler to manufacture. Soviet doctrine treated flamethrower troops as expendable shock troops and equipped them accordingly, prioritizing numbers over individual protection. The ROKS-3 improved upon this foundation with better performance, dropping the weight slightly to 22.5 kilograms while extending range to 30 to 35 meters and duration to 8 to 10 seconds. Its pressurized gas system represented genuine Soviet innovation, proving that Red Army engineers could refine designs under the crushing pressure of total war. Urban combat in Stalingrad proved its worth, clearing German positions block by block through rubble-choked streets. The experimental LPO-50 represented Soviet willingness to innovate with lightweight models, though limited production meant it remained a curiosity rather than a frontline weapon. Japanese forces embraced flame warfare with the Type 93 Flamethrower, a unique three-tank configuration that weighed 25 kilograms. With a range of 20 to 25 meters and a duration of 10 to 12 seconds, it became the standard Japanese infantry flamethrower. Japanese defenders wielded these in last-ditch banzai charges, creating walls of flame to stop American advances across Pacific atolls. The Type 100 flamethrower arrived as a late-war improvement, reducing weight to 23 kilograms while extending range to 23 to 27 meters and duration to 10 to 15 seconds. By the time this improved model entered service, Japan was fighting on its home islands, and desperation drove every design choice. Italy's contribution to flame warfare emphasized duration over all else. The Lanciafiamme Modello 35 weighed 27.5 kilograms and achieved 20 to 25 meters of range, but its exceptional 18 to 20 second burn time was the longest of any flamethrower in World War II. Italian flame troops earned respect in North Africa wielding this weapon, but were hamstrung by poor logistics and fuel shortages that left capable equipment sitting idle. The Lanciafiamme Modello 40 improved the design with better range of 25 to 30 meters and 15 seconds of duration at 28 kilograms. The Lanciafiamme Modello 41 d'Assalto took a different approach entirely, dropping to just 18 kilograms for a lightweight assault version. Designed for the aggressive shock trooper rather than the defensive bunker guardian, it traded range for mobility, allowing Italian assault units to close distance rapidly. France's Lance-Flammes Model 1940 represented tragic potential. Weighing 28 kilograms with 25 to 30 meters of range, it was a capable weapon that never got its chance to prove itself, seeing limited action before French surrender left stockpiles in German hands. Polish resistance fighters refused to surrender their fight, building the WW2. 41 in secret workshops scattered across occupied territory. These homemade designs turned captured German fuel and scavenged parts into weapons of defiance, crude but effective tools in the hands of desperate patriots. But infantry flamethrowers were only half the story. Engineers soon mounted these weapons on vehicles, creating mobile infernos that could stand toe-to-toe with enemy armor. When engineers mounted flamethrowers on tanks and vehicles, they created something far more terrifying than an infantry weapon. They built moving fortresses of fire that could project flames farther than a football field. Germany's Flampanzer II, nicknamed Flamingo, pioneered vehicular flame warfare by mounting twin flamethrowers on the obsolete Panzer II chassis. With a range of 35 to 40 meters, it saw limited service primarily on the Eastern Front between 1941 and 1942. Its twin flamethrowers turned pillboxes into ovens, but thin armor made it a death trap for its crew. The Flampanzer III took the concept further with a modified Panzer III tank, replacing the main gun with a single flamethrower capable of reaching 55 to 60 meters. So few were built that Allied intelligence barely knew they existed. The Flampanzer 38T Hetzer appeared as a late-war desperation measure, mounting a flamethrower on the Jagdpanzer 38T chassis. By the time these reached the front, Germany was fighting in its own cities, where flamethrowers excelled. The Flampanzer B2F, utilized converted captured French tanks for bunker assaults and urban combat. Germany's use of captured French vehicles for flame warfare was both pragmatic and symbolic, turning France's own armor into weapons of terror. American innovation produced the M4 Sherman Zippo, also called Ronson, which replaced the main gun with a flame projector, achieving 60 to 90 meters of range. Used extensively in the Pacific Theater, the nickname Zippo was not just about the flames, but about how reliably it lit up Japanese fortifications. The POA CWS H-5 took a different approach, mounting a Canadian Ronson flamethrower in the M4 hull gun position while retaining the main gun. Why choose between a gun and a flamethrower when you could have both? The M3A1 Satan mounted its flamethrower on an M3 half-track, fast enough to keep up with infantry, armored enough to survive small arms fire, and terrifying enough to earn its demonic name. The LVT A4 with flamethrower proved critical for Pacific Island operations as an amphibious flame tank that could project fire directly from the water, turning beach landings from suicidal to survivable. Britain engineered the Churchill Crocodile, the most feared flamethrower weapon of World War II. Based on the Churchill 7 tank, it towed an armoured fuel trailer behind while retaining its main 75mm gun. With a staggering range of 110 to 140 metres, the longest of any flamethrower in the war, approximately 800 were produced with legendary effectiveness. German troops who witnessed the Crocodile in action often surrendered rather than face its flames. It was not cowardice, but sanity. The Universal Carrier Wasp mounted a flamethrower on the Bren gun carrier for highly mobile flame support, achieving 50 to 80 meters of range while remaining small, nimble, and absolutely lethal in close combat. Soviet flame tanks evolved throughout the war. The OT-26 and OT-130 used the T-26 chassis in early configurations. The OT-34 replaced the main gun of the legendary T-34 with the ATO-41 flamethrower, achieving 60 to 70 meters of range. Taking the best tank of the war and turning it into a flamethrower was either brilliant or wasteful, depending on the tactical situation. The OT-34-85 finally got it right, retaining the 85mm gun alongside the flamethrower. The KV-8 mounted a 45mm gun with flamethrower in an oversized mantlet on the KV-1 heavy tank. It looked like it had a massive gun, but that mantlet was mostly empty space hiding a flamethrower, a deception that terrified German troops despite mechanical unreliability. Japan's Type 2 Kami amphibious variant and Italy's L3 LF tankette saw limited use, the latter in Spain, Ethiopia, and North Africa as the perfect weapon for fighting poorly armed colonial troops, but utterly outmatched against modern armies. These weapons represented more than engineering. They were the evolution of warfare itself. But flamethrowers were more than just weapons. They were instruments of psychological warfare, tools of tactical innovation, and symbols of modern warfare's increasing brutality. The evolution of flame warfare began with simple petroleum-based mixtures, gasoline and oil that burned fast and dissipated quickly. Engineers discovered that thickening the fuel made it stick, transforming brief bursts into prolonged infernos that clung to surfaces and continued burning long after the initial projection. This mid-war innovation extended effective combat duration and made defensive positions far more vulnerable. The late-war introduction of napalm, a combination of gasoline and aluminum soaps developed by American chemists, changed everything. Napalm did not just burn, it consumed. It stuck to bunkers, to weapons, to people. It was the most terrifying fuel innovation of the war, turning the M22 flamethrower into a weapon of unprecedented devastation. Propellant systems evolved alongside fuels. Compressed nitrogen became the most common choice for its stability and effectiveness, while compressed carbon dioxide offered an alternative for specific applications. One Wehrmacht unit that experimented with hydrogen propellant learned the hard way why it never became standard when their first test ended in a massive explosion that convinced engineers to abandon the concept entirely. Tactically, flamethrowers excelled at breaking defensive lines, turning static positions into death traps where defenders faced the choice between burning or retreating. Urban warfare saw flamethrowers achieve their greatest effectiveness. In Stalingrad, Berlin, and Manila, where every building became a fortress, flamethrowers cleared entire blocks that had resisted conventional assault for days. Japanese bunkers on Pacific islands that withstood grenades, mortars, and even naval bombardment fell silent after one burst of flame. The weapon's ability to flow into enclosed spaces and consume all oxygen made it uniquely deadly against fortified positions. Defensive applications remained less common but proved effective for perimeter defense and creating firewalls that channeled enemy movement. Specialized uses included destroying equipment and supplies, creating smokescreens as a tactical byproduct, and even experimental Soviet decontamination procedures. But the flamethrower's true power was not measured in meters or kilograms. It was measured in fear. German troops specifically requested transfer away from sectors facing Churchill crocodiles, revealed in captured Wehrmacht documents. No other Allied weapon generated such specific dread. The primal human terror of fire, weaponized and mechanized, broke the will of defenders who had held against conventional assault. Japanese soldiers facing American flame tanks in the Pacific showed visible panic, abandoning positions they had sworn to defend to the death. Yet these fearsome weapons carried devastating vulnerabilities. 6 to 20 seconds of firing time meant every burst counted. Short range required operators to approach within deadly enemy fire. Fuel tanks made obvious targets, and a single bullet could turn the operator into a human torch. Infantry flamethrower troops moved slower under the tremendous weight, making them more vulnerable to enemy marksmen. Weather conditions affected effectiveness, with rain and wind reducing range and reliability. Flamethrower operators had the lowest life expectancy of any infantry specialty, and they knew it. World War II flamethrowers continued evolving through Korea and Vietnam before international protocols eventually restricted their use. Modern thermobaric weapons trace their lineage directly to these flame projectors. They were ultimately retired not because they became ineffective, but because they became too effective, too brutal, too indiscriminate, too terrifying. The flame weapons that helped win the war became too terrible for even modern warfare to stomach. But for 4 years, from 1941 to 1945, they burned across every battlefield, turning the tide of history one burst of fire at a time.